Welcome to today's episode, everyone. We've got a very exciting guest for you guys. For those of you just joining the podcast, we're E.N.G Media, and we specialize in helping software and technology companies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn how to take your software or tech business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs. But without further ado, AB, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. I'm really excited to dive into Agile FX and all the awesome stuff that you guys are working on in the life sciences space.
Yeah, happy to do so, and thank you for having me here.
Absolutely, man. So maybe let's just kick it off by, you telling both myself and the audience, a little bit more about Agile FX and maybe your guys' core areas of focus, really.
Yeah, definitely. So I come from a tech entrepreneurship background, and being in tech industry for 17 years, I always try to find the purpose and a vertical where I can focus the most.
Yeah.
And so when I found my purpose in a life science space, basically that was the time where we introduced Agile Effects. And my effort is to be able to increase the efficiency in a life science industry,
Yeah.
that if that results to the drug discovery process to make it more faster and affordable, we're all in for that. Or if it's just an operational excellence or efficiency, then we're also happy to do so. But Agile Effects' purpose, as I mentioned, is to how do you increase a
Mhm.
productivity for any side of the organization? And we started with no code because no code allowed us to build those systems much rapidly.
Yeah.
And soon we transition into agentic workflow because now with the help of AI agents, we
Yeah.
can build those systems even much rapidly.
Nice. And so you guys are kind of able to leverage AI up to this point to increase operational efficiency. And I know that, I did a bit of research and I think you'd mentioned to me as well that like 30 to 40% of the time in the life sciences space is spent like managing documentation for compliance purposes, really.
Mhm.
So, biotech companies, pharma, and people in the medical device space are pretty much writing this documentation that's taking up almost like half the time that they really spend in their business. So really, my question for you is how does your guys' work with AI agents and really your approach help them maybe like reduce that burden?
Yeah. So if you think about it, everything in life science is often regulated at least in United States through FDA.
Mhm.
And those guidelines are basically to protect patients. And the purpose for the documentation is to have the traceability to in the event if things goes wrong, how do you
Yeah.
really trace back where things fall apart? So that's why everything needs to be well documented. There's also risk management that
Hmm.
needs to be done through the documentation process. So when it comes to such an highly regulated space
Yeah.
where documentation is the key. And we're not just talking about documenting once and then store it into your file and forget about it. These are
Yeah.
the living documents. With every small change and deviation, you need to update that. And what I had experienced in the quality assurance department is oftentimes they would spend months to come up with a specific document when it comes to deploying a new system. So to
Uh-huh.
give you an example, every new system needs URS, which is user requirement specification.
Okay.
And those URS documents are basically it's built with multiple stakeholder. So every stakeholder would go and contribute pieces of information.
Oh
And
wow.
there is a document owner who would basically polish the document and then draft it, and then it will circulate for signing. Now, just because there are multiple stakeholder involved, you
Hmm.
often are at disadvantage of getting everyone synced on a time. You are going back and forth with individuals.
Yeah.
And what we did is for that, we build agentic workflow for the URS generator where this each individual stakeholder will have its own AI agent where they will describe the specific role
Oh wow.
and their contribution to the document. And that agent will then go and take information, high level information from this stakeholder and then basically create the first draft. And the stakeholder at that point has to confirm whether or not if the information is accurate. If not, they can go and make edits and changes, but at least
Mhm.
it gets the ball rolling. Because
Yeah.
the other thing we discovered that this stakeholder sometimes they're scientists and they're not good with creating documents or writing a paragraph of document. So
Right.
that often is a bottleneck for them to get things moving. So at least AI agent help them move that step forward where all they have to do is confirm the details. And that basically allows them to reduce the document creation time from 4 months down to 4 weeks.
Oh, wow. So that's like a really like a 10x improvement. I mean, that's no, that's awesome. And I appreciate you breaking down kind of like that documentation process as well for maybe anybody in the audience that it doesn't really kind of understand that. And so obviously like it's a very important process that you have to go through. And so, if I put myself in the shoes of maybe somebody that has a life science company, really I would want to make sure that like I'm not compromising any accuracy or really violating any of the safety standards that probably like surround that documentation process. So by you guys building out AI agents for each individual stakeholder, is that how you essentially make sure that like that accuracy and quality really stays in their documentation process?
That's one way to do so. A lot of this life science information is out there in public when it comes to a specific subject. So
Mhm.
what we often try to do is build a RAG-based system. It's called retrieval augmented generation. And in that RAG-based system, we basically pair the LLM with a
Uh-huh.
specific data type. And for that, we often create like a vector database where we would, I'm just going to use an example here where PubMed is a huge open source platform for scientists and doctors or anyone in medical field to
Okay.
research articles. So basically, it's called literature review. And in
Mhm.
that literature review, you would go and sometimes you would be spending hours trying to find the relevant document where you want to spend time in.
Yeah.
So what we did is we basically take the LLM, we take the PubMed, and
Uh-huh.
we basically put the PubMed data into the vector database to have this LLM with a guideline to only provide response from that data. So it's not hallucinating. It's
Okay.
only reviewing what's available. And that's where you're increasing the accuracy. That's one method. And then, of
Mhm.
course, it brings more transparency because you have citations. So with retrieval augmented generation, the biggest advantage is you can cite exactly where this information has been retrieved from.
Gotcha.
So that's one of our approach to really reduce any hallucination with the life science space.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think like, your guys' AI agents and really the technology that you're providing, it's obviously ensuring that the accuracy is really still there. But I think even more importantly, it sounds like your team and yourself as well have spent like a lot of time in the quality assurance space. And it sounds like a lot of research and development has gone into some of the work that you guys have done. Could you maybe shed some light into how much quality assurance you guys have done and really how that's helped provide this type of like really customized solution?
Yeah, definitely. So in our mind, quality is not a destination, it's a
Mhm.
journey, and we're constantly evolving to identify where there might be a pitfalls.
Mhm.
We been experimenting on this before. I like to call it Big Bang, when the ChatGPT 3.5 got released, is
Yeah.
the is the Big Bang for the internet for us, right? And when we had an opportunity to work with the ChatGPT 2.5 models, or
Mhm.
even prior to that, Google had a Google Palm where they had NLP models to
Oh,
generate text. We had that early glimpse of what that generative AI will look like. Of course, after the Big Bang, things have went 100 or 1,000 x faster.
yeah.
So we have basically a research group, and their focus on day-to-day basis is
Nice.
to try out the new technologies that are coming out, whether it's a LangChain LangGraph graph framework or if there's a new type of RAG-based system that is coming out. How do we
Nice.
constantly validate that? Because it's you can't just go and spend time reading and then wait
Mhm.
for others to figure it out for you in this day and age, especially when you're in the life science space. So you have to
Yeah.
constantly execute, validate, and I would say trust but verify. So that would be our approach on a day-to-day basis.
I love that. No, I couldn't have said it better myself. And I know that, like you mentioned, kind of after the Big Bang, a lot of AI companies have emerged in, I'm sure, the life sciences space as well. But your team and the work that you guys have done in the like with the quality assurance has led you to create like proprietary agentic workflows essentially with your AI. Could you maybe speak to like without giving away too much of the secret sauce, how you guys are able to provide really a more effective solutions for the life sciences sector on like the proprietary front?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I'll be honest, what we're doing is nothing groundbreaking in any ways.
Right.
It's a public information. And what we're really trying to do is a very simple thing, is to optimize each and every workflow. So to give you an example, if something that takes you 30 minutes,
Uh-huh.
we're trying to figure out how can we do that in 30 seconds
Oh
for that
wow.
end user. So the example as I give you, like scientists often spend hours researching PubMed to find the relevant literature review, right?
Uh-huh.
And now there is an agent who can perform the same research for those scientists in less than 30 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just a matter of how do you make their life better by minutes, if not seconds? That's our focus. So we try to understand their workflow. And from there, we then define what are the different types of agents we need, what are the different tools they need to have. And then basically from there, we will architect a solution. And that is basically our focus.
Wow. No, that's awesome. And I think as well, I'm always curious from a marketing perspective. Like I know I see your posts on LinkedIn, you're going to several conferences, like you're very active, on social media and also in the life sciences space. I'm always, curious as to how the software and technology founders that come on our podcast, like how are they engaging with their ideal client profile in a meaningful way and really bringing awareness to what they're able to do. I spoke to some, software founders that leverage AI, and they talk about, marketing from a bottom up perspective to where they're communicating and their messaging is matching to the actual end users of their technology instead of speaking to like the top level executives. But then I've also heard the other way around to where they're speaking to like the results that their technology drives for the, the top level executives, and it's more of like a top down approach. So from your perspective, do you guys have any specific strategy into how you're bringing awareness into what Agile FX can do, or I guess what does that really look like?
Yeah. No, it's funny you ask because I just came back from the Bio International Conference from Boston, and
Oh, nice.
it's an eye-opening for us as an Agile FX, who is an AI architect in life science, because when we went to that conference, we probably spoke to, I mean, there were 3,500 companies, but we get to speak with at least 50 to 60 companies
Yeah.
collectively as a team. And our question was, what is your AI strategy? And most companies had to say they don't have one.
Oh wow.
And when we went deeper into it to understand how do they see AI, and
Hmm.
if I'm talking to the executive level, they all acknowledges it that we understand it's important and the time is now, but we
Hmm.
don't know where to begin. So that's the dilemma they're currently experiencing.
Yeah.
When you talk to mid-level to manager level position individuals in that conference when we went,
Uh-huh.
mainly business development team member, we got mixed response because some people would use this SaaS application that has this AI functionality in it,
Hmm.
which doesn't work at the optimal level
Yeah.
because it's basically I've seen they just throw AI on top of their current product, and in a way it makes it sound like it's a buzzword, but it's really not a buzzword. There's a lot of potential. So the implementation is not done at the core level. And they
Right.
can't because their systems were not designed for AI
Okay.
from day one, right? So they're trying to put AI on top of their current implementation, so it may not generate the best possible result.
Right.
So for me, SaaS products is not one size fit all because it can't. And
Right.
every business has its unique SOPs, unique operating procedures, and if you are adopting a SaaS platform, you're basically trying to adopt their system. And in the process, I've seen many life science company go and update their SOPs so that they can meet the requirement of that SaaS platform. It
Right.
should be the other way around. The
Right.
SaaS platform should be meeting their requirement. And we understand why it was like this for many years, because building a own product or your custom solution is expensive, time
Mhm.
consuming, and often those project fails. Now in the age of AI, you
Uh,
can build your custom solution in a matter of weeks, and it doesn't even cost you as much as it used to.
right.
So, in my opinion, SaaS would be dead, but that's basically what we're seeing. I know we kind of went from how do they see to what we believe the next technology would be, but
Mhm.
if we really build this product as a co-pilot for individual team members,
Yeah.
then it will be bottom-up approach. But if the
100%.
executives are just throwing this AI-powered tools without understanding how it will benefit their team members, then they will have pushback.
100%. I appreciate you sharing those insights. And like you mentioned, a lot of, customized projects in the SaaS space usually end up failing. And so there's a lot of innovation going on in the space, but like the agility and the actual implementation of it is kind of a really a whole different story. And the reason I asked about like how you guys are, formatting your messaging and really doing marketing to your ideal client profiles, because I feel like, inbound marketing is really amplified, especially with AI and all of the, the pressure that's coming down. I'm not sure if it's the same for the life sciences company, but a lot of board of directors from, other industries, like you mentioned, they know that they need to be implementing AI and the time is now, but they're a little bit lost. And so they're searching for these solutions on, on Google, on social media. And so I guess, really the people that win and are able to generate demand for their AI solutions are kind of doing it in a way where it's like an inbound strategy. So it's interesting to see how you're talking to different levels at these organizations and finding out like where they are really in their AI journey and where they're seeing that value. So very, very, very
That's right.
interesting. And my next question really is, what would you say are some goals for Agile FX in the next 12 months? Are you guys looking to roll out any kind of new initiatives, or do you guys really have any large plans, I guess, on the horizon?
Um, yes, we definitely do have a lot of large plans, and our large plans are involved around how do we make drug discovery process as easy and as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Where in this current day and age where funding in biotech is becoming a challenge, I know the only way you can, well, not the only way, but one way you can battle that deficiency of funds
Hmm.
through implementing AI. Because AI will allow you to continue to conduct your studies at the
Hmm.
speed and at the cost where one founder may be able to bootstrap that, right?
Right.
So our continuous focus is that with Agile Effects, whether it's a small emerging biotech or an existing big pharma, we should be able to help them go through this uncertainty and transition into the world of AI, where they continue to not only operate with higher efficiency, but they're able to continue to deliver or bring more innovation to the
100%.
world.
100%. Now that makes total sense as well. And like we had mentioned, there's a lot going on right now in the AI space, and maybe some of these life sciences companies don't really know where AI fits into their business models. Could you maybe highlight like a specific use case? Maybe we don't mention any names, but would you maybe be able to shed some light into a recent project that you guys have worked on where you've been able to make the processes a lot more efficient for
Mhm.
some of the companies that you've worked with?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the biggest hurdle in gene therapy, or I would say in protein structure, protein engineering, right?
Mhm.
Um, Scientists have spent many years trying to figure it out how to model a protein sequence. And there were a lot of tools that were built
Mhm.
by different companies to achieve that goal, but nothing really penetrated to the level
Sure.
what Google have done with AlphaFold. So AlphaFold is a project which is a huge database of protein sequence, and
Mhm.
you can take that today, use an LLM, and have a protein structure ready for you to view in a matter of seconds. And
Wow.
that's unheard of, because this is where in order to just present one protein structure, they might spend weeks, if not months. and now it's done in seconds, right? So that's one efficiency we have seen.
Yeah.
If I have to give you one more example,
Sure.
it basically around how do you get compliance on a proactive level instead of reactive level. So in FDAs, they're often this organization will undergo some random audits where they are challenged to present their quality management system and showcase that they are compliant with document management.
Uh,
And what happens is whenever these companies are presented with those audit opportunities, they realize that now they got to tighten up their belts, and they work really hard to make sure everything is organized. And sometimes they work hard after the audit because there are some
mm,
findings. Now, AI can proactively help you identify those areas of opportunities upfront. So before you even get to the audit, so there's an agent who can monitor any deviation that you may have as a result of change, and it can pinpoint exactly which document needs to be updated or which
nice.
what content, and human just have to verify. So you can go from reactive to the proactive with the help of AI, and we have seen that happening in terms of efficiency.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's no, that is super awesome. And, I know we kind of touched on really what some of your guys' goals are, I guess, in the next 12 months. Another question that I always love to ask at toward the end of the podcast is, if we were hypothetically speaking and, let's just say you could wave a magic wand and you could solve one thing in the business right now that's maybe getting in the way of you guys being able to, I guess, reach that goal. Do you know maybe what that one thing would be?
Yeah, is to have every organization their own bespoke AI-powered system that is designed for their own individual need. That is what speaking to their core culture and efficiency. That's one thing we want to see
Yeah.
in any life science organization.
100%. And it really sounds like it just takes them sitting down and talking to a company like Agile FX and seeing maybe some of the projects that you guys have worked on, your expertise in the AI space and how that can really apply to their business. So, if there's anybody watching this podcast that, maybe they want to connect with you or they want to connect with Agile FX outside of your guys' website, what would really be like the best social media platform where they can go check you guys out and maybe connect?
Yeah, I'm trying to be as active as possible in LinkedIn. So LinkedIn would be a one platform.
Yeah.
And basically, I try to share my findings, and we're all in this discovery stage.
Mhm.
And my goal is to share the finding of AI in life science as as soon as I find something. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, LinkedIn would be that platform.
I love it. So you're kind of, displaying everything that you are learning and all the insights that you're collecting on social media. And so, if anybody does maybe come across your LinkedIn profile or your guys' website, are they welcome to reach out and maybe ask you a
Yeah,
few questions if they have any for like the life science companies out there?
definitely, definitely. We're happy to brainstorm. At this point, the whole industry is looking for a help. And the
Mhm.
best way we can support that help is by just having this open dialogue,
Yeah.
go through those conversation to see what we can do for them, right? And our goal is to start small,
Mhm.
pick an area of opportunity that may be the most daunting process of anyone's work,
Mhm.
and let us build a proof of concept to kind of show you the power of AI, what it can do for you.
Yeah.
And that is the baby step we like to take with every life science organization today.
I love that. So it sounds like you're looking for the focusing on the 20% of things that drive 80% of the results instead of the 80% of things maybe not AI could come in and help with that only drive 20% of the results, what it
Y-
sounds like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You nailed it.
I love it. I love it. And I'll be sure to include links in the description of our video and on our posts on social media as well to your guys' website, your social media, all of that good stuff. I highly recommend you guys do go check out Agile FX and all the awesome things that they're working on. But, really other than that, AB, thank you so much for your time and for your insights today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.